Please be seated. Good morning.
Good morning.
In the liturgical calendar, we're suspended between All Saints' Day and Advent. In the civic calendar, we're between the consumptive frenzy of Halloween and the consumptive orgy of Christmas. And in our academic life here at the seminary, we're just staggering in week 10. Trying to get done, is it 11, is it 10, is it 9? It's just staggering, trying to get done what needs to be done. And the lectionary deals us a sequence of Jesus saying, a rather random sequence. It's hard to find if there's any logic between these sayings. The HarperCollins heading for this section is Some Sayings of Jesus. Some. But today I choose one, and it has a bit more of a setup. It's the last one. And the disciples, this is how it goes. The apostles asked the Lord, increase our faith. And the Lord replied, if you had faith the size of a grain of mustard seed, and you said to this mulberry tree, be uprooted and planted in the sea, it would obey. First, what provokes the disciples to ask Jesus this? Increase our faith. Could it be they wanted to be even more amazing and heroic so they could live up to their title of apostle that they're notably called here for, I think, the first time? Or could it be that they were challenged by something really hard, something that had happened, like the sinful woman anointing Jesus' feet and being commended for her faith, or the gut-wrenching parable of the rich man and Lazarus, so that they really felt the need to have a transfusion of faith, a supplantation of faith to get them through. And Jesus gives a very weird answer. It's kind of like those Zen master answers. If you had faith the size of a grain of mustard seed, and you said to this mulberry tree, be uprooted and planted in the sea, it would obey. What kind of answer is that? Is it saying you're already enough? Is it saying you don't need to get any bigger? Or is it saying, let's think about what went into that question? Let's rethink that question. For Jesus' answer makes us ask, what is faith really for? We remember it's not to turn stones into bread or to perform an acrobatic feat of leaping off the temple. But faith is for healing and making well and making right. Faith is you having been healed and made well. And then faith makes you a healer and a maker well, or a maker weller. Faith makes you a maker weller. Because if you had even a speck of this faith, you wouldn't have to perform the miraculous feat of having a mulberry tree, a sycamore tree, unwind its massive roots and pull itself out and get itself planted in the fertile, infinite, but inhospitable to mulberry tree sea. No. Really, faith is those small acts those hard acts where you forgive your enemy or give some slack to your difficult classmate. And faith is that daily work that allows you to read the headlines without despairing and running away. And reading the prognostication of the pundits without digging your head in the sand. But faith calls you into the world one more day, one more time. And finally, Jesus' Zen answer provokes us to ask, how do we increase our faith? How do we be sure that we even have a speck, a modicum, a tiny bit? And for this answer, I go back to those earlier sayings, the scary ones, and I reverse them and put them positively. Because those scary sayings about stumbling, all that stuff, are about how connected the community is and how we can't sin or forgive or do any kind of act of faith without it affecting one another. So to increase our faith, perhaps we might look at one another. Perhaps we might put down whatever amazing heroic feat we've taken on and seek to do ordinary faith by looking at our neighbors and having our neighbors' faith increase our own. My faith was increased yesterday when I sat in church with my 96-year-old friend, and his vision doesn't allow him to see the hymnal, but he sang, "For all the saints and ye watchers and ye holy ones, from memory, loudly and boldly." My faith is increased every day by the small acts of faith of my colleagues, students who meet their obligations, try to do good. It's warmed by those polity bowl players who I know are practicing so hard and they're fanatical fans. That is the increase for my faith and for yours. So, a mustard seed's worth of faith. All we need to get us through week 10, one more day without stumbling, and will allow us to do acts of faith that are not amazing, but humble and small, not ridiculous or preposterous, but ultimately miraculous.